Hello and welcome to a Friday Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination and consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We are here together for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time to look back on the end of this week and set the stage for the weekend in the sports landscape. A weekend DRS that will not include NBA playoff basketball because the Western Conference Finals is done after only 5 games. A recap of game number 5 last night in the Twin Cities between the Timberwolves and the Mavericks in Dallas dominance here in these 3 hours. And we set the stage for the NBA Finals between the Mavs and the Celtics as well. On the ice, though, Stanley Cup playoff action this weekend and plenty more around Major League Baseball. All of that and more over these next 3 hours.
Anticlimactic last night in the NBA, but that won't be the case, people, of the next 3 hours right here on the early line because we got you covered. We'll set the weekend up. We'll take a look at next week. Yes, and again, it's not like next Monday or Tuesday the NBA Finals gets ripping. It's next Thursday. So we have plenty of time to set the table, which should be a fantastic NBA Final. Major League Baseball full gas here. We are ready to go, and it's a Friday. Oh, yeah, it's good times.
There will be plenty of NBA Finals previews here on the early line starting now in these hours and through Thursday, June 6th. That is the start of the NBA Finals, now 6 days away. It will be in Boston, and it will feature the Celtics taking on the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas dominant last night on the road in game number 5 in Minneapolis. DRS first 4 games of this series. Of course, the Mavs holding a 3-1 series advantage with the potential series clincher last night, all decided by single digits. 9 points or less. We had not seen a blowout in the WCF. Enter game number 5. The Mavericks dominant throughout. They win by 21 to advance back to the NBA Championship Series for the first time in more than a decade since 2011. Final score last night in Minnesota, 124-103. The Mavericks win outright as a 5.5-point underdog, and a pregame total of 209 and a hook does go over.
First thoughts, usually the best thoughts here for like 24 to 48 hours. I was like, man, that looks like it's a Mavericks. They could probably go in there and win. Then I saw the public avalanche and said, let me rethink my options, which was a terrible option to say I like the Minnesota Timberwolves last night at minus 4.5 points and even getting a decent number on that by the time you hit game time. But this game was over by the end of the first quarter. It was 35-19. Luka Doncic already had 20 points at that point. So you figure you're going to get a big push out of the Timberwolves in quarter number 2. You didn't get that. Dallas annihilated them, and it was a wrap by the time you got to halftime. Already looking forward to the NBA Finals. 36 points out of Luka, 36 points out of Kyrie. Superstars in the biggest moments on the road, providing that absolute impact. That's what you got last night. The better team won this series, and quite frankly, it really should have been a sweep. Dallas was that good against the Timberwolves.
72 combined points out of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. I mean, on the other side for Minnesota, Ant and Cat, that's Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, combined for 56 as well, each scoring 28. But the Dallas dynamic duo each scored 36. Luka Doncic scoring 30-plus points in all 5 games of the Western Conference Finals. Won the Western Conference Finals MVP award. 2 triple-doubles in that span as well, including the game-winning 3 with 3 ticks remaining in Game 2 in Minneapolis. Luka Doncic is one of the 5 best players in the NBA, and he's probably not 4 or 5. Luka Doncic wins the WCF MVP award.
He was absolutely incredible this entire series. And quite frankly, we were supposed to be told here that he was on a hobbled knee. Doesn't look so hobbled to me. Shooting logo 3-point shots with ease on the road. Absolutely tremendous playoff run. And it doesn't stop here. We'll see what he has in the NBA Finals.
14 of 22 from the floor last night, including 6 made triples, over 3.5 made threes in the last 4 games. That was his prop last night of the Western Conference Finals. And he was plus 165 to win this hardware before the series got started because, remember, The Mavericks were the underdog in the Western Conference Finals, and they win in a gentleman's sweep in only 5 games. Third ever berth in the NBA Finals for this Dallas organization. Their first since 2011. They also won the Larry O'Brien Trophy that season. We will preview a ton and take the early looks at the NBA Finals throughout these next 3 hours. Also, game number 5 in playoff action last night, Stanley Cup postseason, back inside Madison Square Garden for the Eastern Conference Finals. The Rangers and Donnie's guy, Chris Kreider, got out to an early lead inside MSG, but the Panthers do respond. Florida takes game number 5 in a 3-2 series lead with a 3-2 victory. The Panthers were a road ice favorite even inside the Mecca.
Yeah, if you tell me that the Rangers scored first and last, you probably figure they came away with a Game 5 victory, but that wasn't the case because you had 3 unanswered goals by Florida midway through that third period, and that was enough to do the damage. Exciting finish here, but that was a letdown. You're at home. You have home ice advantage, best of 3, essentially. The Rangers lost that game. Now that uphill climb starts, and I'm not quite so sure that we even get back to Madison Square Garden for a game number 7. But these have been close games, entertaining all the way through. You score first at home in Game 5. You got to win that. They couldn't do it.
Outside of the shutout that Florida pulled off in game number 1 inside MSG, the last 4 games have been decided by just a single goal. Games 2 through 4, of course, into overtime as well. Florida now a minus 490 series outright favorite to win the Eastern Conference Championship. They're a minus 170 home money line favorite for tomorrow night's game number 6 back in Sunrise. Now we go to Major League Baseball. A shorter slate on a Thursday, but significant scores to bring you. The Astros finally avoid a sweep in Seattle, winning their first game of a 4-game set against the divisional foe, the Mariners, with a 4-0 victory over the M's. Alex Bregman, a 2-run shot to get the scoring started yesterday for Houston. They snap that losing skid and avoid the 4-game sweep up in Seattle.
Needed it in a big way. We talked about this game yesterday, staying under the total out there at T-Mobile, a cavernous ballpark. And also, Spencer Arrighetti pitching much, much better than what he was doing at the beginning of the season. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 0 earned runs, 8 Ks on the road against a divisional rival. That's what the Astros needed, 25-32. Still not buying him, though. Just not going to do it yet.
Yeah, the Mariners still the only team with a winning record above 500 in the American League West. Seattle was the minus 132 home money line favorite yesterday. The Astros, as the underdog, win outright. They entered having dropped 5 of their last 7 games, so a big victory for Houston. WNBA now. The Seattle Storm go on the road to Indiana. The Fever off to a very tough start this year. 1-8. Seattle scores 103 in the Storm's cover as a 5.5-point favorite. The Chicago Sky at home in Chi-Town against the LA Sparks also get a victory as well. Chicago booked as a 4.5-point home favorite.
Yeah, and by the way, the Indiana Fever, 1-8 on the season, 0-4 at home. Not a great look here to start out. They're a fun, entertaining young ball club, but at the same time, maybe you should start stacking some wins. But we'll see how the rest of the season turns out. If you were betting on, let's just say, a team total to the over on the season, not a great look for Fever backers right now.
Caitlin Clark, 20 points last night, 9 dimes, 3 made threes, but she is having a rough adjustment, or at least at times with the physicality of some of those WNBA defenders. She was not too pleased with how she was defended last night. Speaking of Chicago, where the Sky got a victory over the Sparks last night, the Chicago Bears will be on Hard Knocks this summer. Kayla Williams' first training camp in the National Football League on full display.
Yeah, give us a team that's on the rise here with entertaining young players that we haven't quite met as a public yet. That's a good choice to have the Bears. Will I be watching each and every week? I don't know if I say that, but I do approve of the selection for the Bears here.
And it's your daily French Open update. Novak Djokovic in the men's draw, victorious in round number 2. Arina Sabalenka also a victory in the second round over in Paris. A recap of Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals from last night next.
And now you have to qualify in these majors. you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness. And I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. Mm-hmm. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Using the parlays against one another, right, and being able to get a little bit of juice consig, I found to be a little interesting.
Believe me, all the rhombuses and parallelograms are constantly trying to search and find out those things every day. It's one of the battles that you know, as you expand the menu, you encounter new battles.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Game number 5 of the Western Conference Finals last night. Minnesota back home, hoping to stave off elimination as they did in Game 4 in Dallas, continuing the WCF and keeping their season afloat. It just didn't happen in the Twin Cities. The Mavericks had an opportunity to win a basketball game and advance to the NBA Finals for the first time in more than a decade, since 2011. When led by Dirk Nowitzki, the Mavericks won their only Larry O'Brien trophy in franchise history. And Dallas did that in a dominant way last night, winning by 20-plus on the road, 21 to be exact, 124-103 in the Twin Cities. The Mavericks win outright as a 5.5 point underdog, depending on where you got that number. When we discussed yesterday, Donnie, it was a 4.5 point spread in favor of the T-Wolves, but so much of the public betting love coming on Dallas's side, and it turns out sometimes we can't fade the public. The public was correct, led by 72 combined points from Kyrie and Luka, each Doncic and Irving scoring 36 points apiece. Dallas wins the Western Conference crown in 5 games in the WCF.
I mean, we expected great performances here out of both Luka and Kyrie because they're great basketball players, and they've shown that they can do that. I just didn't think in a closeout game in an opponent's building that they would both give you 36 points. And all of a sudden, you're taking a look and saying, well, yeah, they're going to win that game because my superstars, talking about the Dallas Mavericks, were better than Minnesota's. But even looking at Minnesota, 28 points and 28 points. If you would have told me before that basketball game started, hey, look, I'm not going to give you what happens with the Dallas Mavericks, but you're going to get 28 from both, Anthony Edwards and also Karl Anthony Towns, that should be a win on your home court. You should be able to close them out. Secondary players probably stepping up as well, but sometimes it doesn't matter. And also, we talk about how you want to open basketball games, where if it's the Dallas Mavericks and let's just say the blowout chances, who I thought Minnesota had a much better chance to blow out Dallas, but that wasn't actually what happened. It was the Dallas Mavericks blowing out the Minnesota Timberwolves because you always had the game number 6 in your back pocket back in Dallas in case things didn't go correctly. That first quarter should have been 35-19 Minnesota taking control of the advantage, riding that crowd here early in the game. And it didn't happen. It was the opposite. Luka Doncic was on fire to start that basketball game. If you were on social media last night, people are talking about, oh, he's going to threaten Jordan 63 points from back in the 1980s. That looked like where it was headed at this point. Like he would have 40 points at the break. My goodness, both of those guys, Irving and Doncic, played so well last night that they didn't even give the Minnesota Timberwolves a chance to even hang around early, Ben. That's what was impressive.
And Donnie, we thought maybe Minnesota could pull off the first blowout victory of this series in the Western Conference Finals, because if around 8 minutes remaining in regulation, Dallas was down and Jason Kidd decided, all right, we're going back to Texas for game number 6. We'll pull our guys. Completely different script last night. The Mavericks took it to Minnesota early and often in Minneapolis. And Dallas this postseason as an underdog. Now 7 games, 6-1 straight up. Booked as a dog, of course, in games 1, 2, and 5, all in Minneapolis. And they win all of those games outright on the road in the Twin Cities. That is the recipe for success, because Dallas will be on the road, or at least not have that home floor advantage in the NBA Finals to begin in Beantown. Again, we'll preview the NBA Championship Series in just a little bit. On the other end of the equation, DRS, the Timberwolves only booked as a favorite 8 times. All 8 games, home games in Minneapolis. After last night's loss outright, Minnesota just 3-5 straight up at home and as a favorite throughout this postseason run. And the question for the Timberwolves, at least in the first 3 games, what were we going to get out of Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns, who was terrible, that being Cat, in the first 3 games of this series? Better last night, 28 points. The Ant-Man scoring 28 as well. It's just nobody else on Minnesota reached double figures last night. So the dynamic duos who we debated entering this Western Conference final set did show up last night. It's just that Dallas's was far better, historical in their performances.
Yeah, and that's where the trust factor comes in. And I know it doesn't really equate to championships, but Kyrie Irving does have a ring on his finger, which includes hitting one of the more clutch baskets in NBA Finals history. We understand that. But also, you thought the emergence of a young superstar, and I don't want to say a young team in Minnesota, because they got a lot of veteran guys, but when you're led by a player that's 22 years old, technically you're going to be a young squad. Also, when you look at Edwards, 10 of 18 from the floor, 4 of 6 from three-point range, 28 total points, but chips in with 9 rebounds and 6 assists in that game, and only turns the basketball over 1 time. Say what you want about Karl Anthony Towns. We thought he might be able to find that stroke back from three-point range that he had in game number 4. Didn't equate to game number 5. You have him going 1 of 6, but even having said that, he was a minus 14 in the game, but he still had 28 points and 12 rebounds. Those guys actually showed up in the box score status, but sometimes you just get overridden by great performances on the other team. And it was a lot of fun to watch. And I use the term anticlimactic to start the show because it was, you want to see at least it coming down the stretch. You want to see those pressure points and see if Dallas can hold off Minnesota. And also, maybe you wanted to see a game number 6 over the weekend, which we don't have that now. You can't take anything away from the Dallas Mavericks because we wanted to see a game number 6 or a game number 7. And as I started out as well, this should have probably been a sweep, which shows you how good Dallas has been in the playoffs so far and how dominant they've actually been.
The 4 prior games in the Western Conference Finals ahead of last night, all decided by single digits, 9 points or less, 5 points or less in 3 of the 4 games, including a total of 4 combined points being the difference in the first 2 games in Minneapolis. That's why Dallas's dominance last night is so stark and drastic for this Mavericks team now back into the NBA Finals. By the way, all 4 Dallas victories in the Western Conference Finals, total goes over. Last night, the pregame total was at 210. The only under, the only Minnesota victory of the Western Conference Finals as well. So now we look at this Mavericks team who will enter the NBA Championship Series as an underdog against the Boston Celtics. It's what we know was going to be the price before things got started. But I do not believe this Dallas team, DRS, can be overlooked.
No, you certainly can't overlook them anymore at this point because making it to the NBA Finals is an achievement. Making it in the Eastern Conference this year, maybe not so much. But the Western Conference, we knew heading into it was going to be an unbelievable gauntlet. They're the last team standing now, and we'll see if they can take on the Celtics. I can't wait for this matchup to start. It's just a shame that we have to wait till next Thursday.
Again, 12 wins in this postseason run, 6 of them outright as an underdog. The Mavericks are here to play. More around the Western Conference Finals next.
and now you have to qualify in these majors. You got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Using the parlays against one another, right, and being able to get a little bit of juice consig, I found to be a little interesting.
Believe me, all the rhombuses and parallelograms are constantly trying to search and find out those things every day. It's one of the battles that you know, as you expand the menu, you encounter new battles.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We now tie a bow on the Western Conference Finals as the Dallas Mavericks victorious in only 5 games, winning 4 games to 1, following a 124-103 victory last night in the Twin Cities on the road as a 5-point underdog in game number 5. The Mavericks, as a dog on the road in all 3 chances in this series, win outright in all 3 of those games. And Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, DRS, in the 3 games in Minneapolis were absolutely sensational. You think of the effort they put together in game number 1, in game 2 as well. Luka scoring 28 or more in all 5 games in this set. And you look at Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving as a duo. We asked the public before this series got started, which dynamic duo, which grouping of superstars did you trust more? And the public pretty resoundingly said Luka and Kyrie for the Mavericks. And the public was absolutely spot on. They combined for 72 points last night in game number 5, each scoring 36. And Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns were pretty good on the other side for Minnesota. Just not enough when you have those 2 guys and Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving go out and pour in 72 combined points.
2 vets here that been there, done that. And also, you take a look at that springboard even towards next year when you're talking about that MVP race. You're getting bonus points right now for Luka Doncic already to start next year before it even gets underway, which how good he has been. And we're expecting maybe an even better form of Luka Doncic. Each and every press conference you watch, he basically says, yeah, this is nice, but we're not settling yet. Like the NBA Finals are on the horizon. And if we were talking, primarily myself, some of the injury concerns that you might have with Luka Doncic, where they said about 2 weeks ago, if this was the regular season, he wouldn't be playing on a night-to-night basis trying to get some rest. Well, rest is the key indicator now, Ben. We sit here on a Friday morning where you have 6 days to rest until next week on Thursday before the finals even get underway.
Yeah.
That's how important it was for the Dallas Mavericks to close out the Timberwolves as soon as they can to get that rest match up against the Boston Celtics, who will be rested and ready if we get Kristaps Porzingis back. But just looking at Doncic and Irving, it seems like they're getting better and better and better. Do you remember when that trade officially went down? It's like, hey, this isn't working out. They're even sitting late in the season during that first run and saying, hey, maybe it'll get together next year. Like, boy, if you could just get another superstar to pair with Luka Doncic, what could it possibly be? Well, here you go. Kyrie Irving is fulfilling that prophecy right now, and you're headed to the NBA Finals, and it looks great for the Dallas Mavericks with those 2 superstars.
It certainly does. On the other side, as we tie a bow on Minnesota's season now that has come to a close after only 5 games in the Western Conference Finals, perhaps a humbling experience for 2 young guys leading this Timberwolves core in Anthony Edwards, one of the bright and emerging superstars in this sport, in Karl Anthony Towns. Now, Cat did score 25-plus in the last 2 games, 25 in Game 4, 28 and 12 last night. But in the first 3 games, just not nearly enough. No more than 16 points in games 1 through 3. Anthony Edwards in the first few games of this series in Minneapolis, incredibly inefficient as well. A costly turnover late in game number 2 that allowed Luka Doncic to hit the dagger in game-winning 3 over Rudy Gobert with only 3 ticks remaining in regulation. Perhaps DRS Minnesota uses this as a springboard for the future, because although this season has come to a close, and although the Timberwolves were the favorites entering the Western Conference Finals at a minus 178 price in front of Dallas, they do fall short, but the future still should be bright in Minneapolis.
It absolutely is. And there's a lot of people out there, changes got to be made because we like to overreact in the moment. Karl Anthony Towns showed his true colors. He can't be a superstar. You got to trade him away and get somebody else. Well, who else are you going to bring into the mix? Because sometimes continuity is much, much better than let's just get another superstar player in here and see exactly how it works out. You're telling me next year that people will be upset if the Minnesota Timberwolves ran it back with the same players and the same coach? No, because they probably would be in again in the Final Four in the NBA, in the Final Four, making the Western Conference Finals with a chance again to get to the NBA Finals. They just ran into an unbelievable buzzsaw in the Dallas Mavericks, playing full gas and being incredible with their 2 superstars. It happens sometimes, and you brought it up there. Looking at the statistics, Karl Anthony Towns roughly averaged 20 points. You take a look at Anthony Edwards, 25 points. That should be good enough unless you take on a team with Doncic and Irving, 2 Hall of Famers that are playing at a Hall of Fame level. Sometimes it's just a tough pill to swallow. They'll be fine next year. Run it back. They'll be a good ball club.
Minnesota was in contention for that number 1 seed in the final week. They finish in 3rd, of course, in the Western Conference, but 56 wins for a team that was favored to make the playoffs at minus 178, but a 29-1 number to win the Western Conference before the year got started, tied for the 8th best, and they were just a few wins away from doing just that. An NBA Finals preview early comes your way next.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Using the parlays against one another, right, and being able to get a little bit of juice consig, I found to be a little interesting.
Believe me, all the rhombuses and parallelograms are constantly trying to search and find out those things every day. It's one of the battles that you know, as you expand the menu, you encounter new battles.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The NBA Finals is now set, 6 days away. Game number 1 of the 2024 NBA Finals inside TD Garden in Boston between the Celtics and the Mavericks. The Mavs back into the NBA Finals for the first time in more than a decade when they won their only Larry O'Brien trophy in franchise history back in 2011. Second NBA Finals appearance for Boston in the last 3 NBA seasons. Of course, the Celtics, one of the most decorated franchises in all of professional sports, in the hunt for banner number 18. They will have home floor advantage throughout the NBA Finals. What will it mean for Boston and Dallas? Let's start with the Celtics' perspective, DRS, because as we have shared multiple times, from the very beginning of this season, this was going to be the evaluation piece for Boston. This was going to be how we judged a successful Celtics season. Not getting to the playoffs, not reaching the second round, heck, not even winning the Eastern Conference crown, but getting to the NBA Finals with this core and actually winning a Larry O'Brien trophy. As you will see all throughout, Boston has been booked as a favorite to win the NBA championship on opening night, a co-favorite alongside Milwaukee at plus 380, a co-favorite at plus 175 to win the Eastern Conference as well. And Donnie, by the time we got to February and Milwaukee trailed behind despite a winning record, the dismissal of Adrian Griffin, the hiring of Doc Rivers, the Bucks weren't really on the same peg as the Celtics. Pretty much since the All-Star break, it's been Boston and everybody else in the Eastern Conference and almost the Celtics and everybody else in the entirety of the association.
That's what it feels like. And also, having Coach on to talk about the evolution of the Boston Celtics, which really wasn't much of an evolution at all. We thought they were the best team opening up the season, and here they are favored to win the NBA Finals as they should be. But sometimes you like to be tested here, and that's going to be the issue. We see the Dallas Mavericks face very good opponent after very good opponent after very good opponent here in the Western Conference playoffs. We haven't seen that here from the Boston Celtics, and quite frankly, it's not their fault. Sometimes things just go your way, and you need a lot of breaks and benefits on your way to a championship run. But we haven't seen that adversity hit them. We haven't seen a team rise up and test them. Well, Donnie, did you see, there was 1-1 in a couple of those series? Yeah, I understand that. But nobody thought after those 1-1 series in series number 1 and series number 2 that we were going to see a 5th or a 6th game at that point, which obviously a 5th game, but not a 6th or 7th game to get that extended series. I want to see how it plays out. Now, a couple of years ago in New York City running for mayor, there was a campaign that was called The Rent is Too Damn High. When you take a look at the Boston Celtics at minus 220 for the finals, that rent is too damn high here. I know the Celtics are really good, but damn it, they are overpriced continuously here. That 220 shouldn't be that high, Ben.
And as we discussed throughout this week, Donnie, after the Celtics wrapped up the Eastern Conference title in only 4 games against a banged-up Indiana team that did not have its all-star in Tyrese Halliburton, the line started to trick up even to minus 230, minus 240. And we said, listen, the look-ahead line of the projected NBA Finals matchup before the conference finals round between the Celtics and the Mavericks was around this minus 220 price. Even if Dallas has to go to 5 or 6 in the Western Conference Finals, it is going to stay around that number. And of course, that's where we settle. Minus 220 for the NBA championship in favor of the Boston Celtics. But again, they flipped to an odds-on favorite by the time we were in the opening round of the NBA playoffs. And that's with everybody still in action in the Western Conference. The Nuggets as the favorites, OKC as the top seed, Minnesota, and of course, now the Dallas Mavericks. So let's go to the Mavs, who actually entered the NBA postseason. 3rd best price in the Western Conference, DRS, to end up winning the title, of which they did. A plus 650 number for Dallas. And that's really where the Mavericks have been on the ascension. A strong closing stretch to the end of the regular season. They disposed the LA Clippers in round number 1. They got rid of the Oklahoma City Thunder, despite the Thunder being the top seed in the Western Conference in round 2, in a gentleman's sweep in the Western Conference Finals. Oh, by the way, just to keep the historic tally going, 156 times now, we have seen a best-of-7 playoff series in NBA postseason history have a team hold a 3-0 series lead. All 156. The team that was up 3-0 ended up winning the series.
Absolutely. And we were talking about that, and we don't have to clip that clip of you saying, like, there's no way they can come back because, quite frankly, nobody's ever done it. So it's an easy stance to take, Ben. You won that stance. We don't have to send that to any freezing cold takes. And also, after they lost game number 4, we're talking about the Dallas Mavericks. I don't think anybody was panicked like, yeah, we're still going to get a 7-game series. We were hoping for that for content purposes and betting purposes and have a lot of fun to see that competition on the court. But you were talking in waves of, okay, it's hard to win 4 games in a row. Dallas couldn't do that. Now we're just expecting the Timberwolves to win 4 games in a row against a team that just beat them 3 straight games. We knew that was a little bit far-fetched at this point. But also, when you're moving forward on what we expect from the Dallas Mavericks, here's what's sometimes tough to lay out. Yes, we know Luka is very good and Kyrie are very good. But in order to probably beat the Boston Celtics, which they're going to have a chance to do that, the price points aren't minus 600, minus 700 in the series. Right. But you are going to have those Hall of Fame performances by those two guys. Because when you are going to match up these two squads against each other, there's 2 superstars already on the Boston Celtics. There's 2 superstars already on the Dallas Mavericks. But if we're looking at those B and C pieces, the Boston Celtics have many more of those than the Dallas Mavericks do. So, which is very enjoyable because if you are the underdog, you need epic performances to win a series or even a few games in that series. So Luka Doncic, he understands the task moving forward. It can't be 17 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists. We got to get what we saw last night out of those 2 superstars if they think they want to win the series. That's what's going to be fun to watch you play out, how high these superstars can actually take their games in the biggest moments.
And, of course, the 2 superstars for Dallas last year did not gel. They did not reach the postseason. True. This year they entered with the 7th best price to win the Western Conference crown. But when they are playing at the level they displayed in the Western Conference Finals, both together on the floor at the same time, it is hard to overlook Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. By the way, Kyrie's return to Boston is going to be a narrative in this series. Of course, he spent 2 seasons as a member of the Celtics organization in Beantown from 2017 to 2019. Let's just call a spade a spade. Celtics don't like the man very much. Are we going to see some sage as we try to make the good aura bring back inside TD Garden before game number 1 on Thursday? Who knows? But it's going to be rather ruthless, I would expect, for Kyrie Irving. But not the only reunion, DRS. Kristaps Porzingis spent 2.5 seasons with the Dallas Mavericks. Good buddies with Luka Doncic. They reunite here on opposite sides in the NBA Finals, and we haven't seen KP since that opening series against Miami.
And by the way, we're taking a look at Kyrie Irving, too. You know, one of the more interesting players over the past 15 years that we've watched and learned from. But at the same time, he's in a much different headspace right now, to be honest. You see every single time that microphone gets in front of him, he's happy, he's enjoying it, and even saying nice things about Boston and basically telling the Boston fans, I wasn't mature enough when I played in Boston. I'm much more mature now. It'll be fun for the competition to go back there. I actually wish it was a little bit different. I wish Kyrie Irving was taking the microphone and basically telling him, Kobe Bryant style, I can't wait to go back and beat down Boston on our way to a championship here. It's a little bit too nice right here. I need this rivalry to get fired up between Kyrie and the fan base immediately when game number 1 starts on Thursday night.
And just to make this point again, the Dallas Mavericks were only 3 games above 500 as we got close to the end of February, or at least the beginning of February, my mistake, February 3rd. Dallas won 24 of their final 33 games down the home stretch. And from the All-Star break on, the Mavericks really turned things on. Dallas has been playing good basketball, not just in the Western Conference postseason or the Western Conference Finals, but really all throughout. Again, Boston has yet to be tested. The Celtics have only played 14 games here in the NBA postseason. They have won 12 of the 14, but they are just 7-7 against the spread, and Boston has only covered once. That was game number 2 against Indiana in their last 6 playoff games. Not exactly easy for the guys in Beantown now into the NBA Finals. Around MLB, we go next.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Using the parlays against one another, right? And being able to get a little bit of juice consig, I found to be a little interesting.
Believe me, all the rhombuses and parallelograms are constantly trying to search and find out those things every day. It's one of the battles that you know, as you expand the menu, you encounter new battles.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
An MLB recap from Thursday that sets the stage for the weekend. Some series coming to a close throughout the midweek before the teams go to their different destinations to start their weekend sets on this Friday. Some have already begun. DRS, we look back first on what we saw yesterday afternoon up in the Pacific Northwest, the divisional duel for a fourth consecutive time this week between the Mariners and the Astros. Seattle won the first three games, hoping for a four-game sweep over Houston in the fourth and final yesterday. But speaking of four, the Astros score four, the Mariners score none, and Houston avoids the sweep with their first victory of the set, 4-0. Again, Spencer Arrighetti, as you shared, very good in the game on the bump for the Stros, and Alex Bregman, a two-run shot for Houston that got the scoring started. Houston needs a win. Houston needs many wins. They entered yesterday having lost 5 of their last 7. They avoid the sweep up in the Northwest.
Yeah, and it's good for them where they avoided the sweep, right? And just tried to somewhat hang around in the AL West. And that's really, not the Houston Astros' fault that they're 25-32. They shouldn't even be in playoff contention with a record like that in a normal division to maybe win it. You should be looking just at the wild card as maybe as a pipe dream. But the fact that the Seattle Mariners at 31-27 are the best team in the AL West, that gives Houston hope all throughout the summer that if we just get right, we have a legitimate chance to actually win this division when, quite frankly, we should have been wiped out of the divisional race when just a few short weeks ago we're talking about them 12-13 games under 500. And this is also a reason that I don't trust Seattle. Games like this, yes, I understand you're going for the sweep, and all you can ask for in Major League Baseball is to win series, not sweep series. We understand that.
Right.
But you take a look at Spencer Arrighetti on the mound. It's not as if you were throwing a Cy Young guy that was going to be the stopper on your team to make sure you got a victory. It's a pitcher that's been, quite frankly, below average for the season that dominated you in your ballpark where you only had 4 hits and also didn't even score a run. The Seattle Mariners, to me, I just can't trust them, which is why, what was maybe a week ago, who do you think is going to win this division? I said the Texas Rangers because they got a lot of ammunition eventually that will come back to that lineup, and they're just too talented here not to be a 500 or better ball club. You take a look at the Mariners again, trust level is low for me, which also keeps the Houston Astros hanging around and believing that eventually they'll get it together.
Seattle 4 games above 500. Again, the only team within the AL West that has a winning record. The Rangers have won 3 in a row after some porous play, including a quick 2-game sweep in the World Series rematch against Arizona earlier this week in Arlington. But the Rangers still 2 games below 500, 27 and 29. And the Astros avoiding the sweep yesterday, 25 and 32. The American League West. Those divisional odds, we have them. There they are. Minus 140 for Seattle as the divisional favorites and those front runners with a minus money price. Donnie, you said you're not buying into either Seattle or Houston. Let me ask you the question like this around the Astros, who are tied for the 3rd best price still to win the American League pennant, even being 7 games below 500 at plus 750. You saw the odds there, plus 260, just 5 games back of those Seattle Mariners for the top spot in the division. Houston is also plus 112 even to see the American League postseason. If there was a price you were going to bet on the Astros, figuring things out from the month of June on through the rest of this long summer in Major League Baseball, what do you think would be that best bet on the Astros?
I mean, it probably wouldn't even be, to be honest, the AL West. It would be more of looking at the pennant. And you say, well, that's ludicrous, Donnie. Why would you bet the pennant, not the division? Well, I actually don't think technically they're the best team in this division this season. I still think the Texas Rangers might have a leg up on them because they do have a couple pitchers on the DL right now that might be able to come back. You take a look at some of those young hitters, which includes Josh Jung, expected to come back as well. Now, having said that, the reasoning behind not winning the division is we know it's more of a crapshoot once you get to the playoffs. Pedigree sometimes comes into the equation where if the Astros just make the playoffs, yeah, been there, done that. Making deep runs, that's what we do. Winning world championships, that's what we do. So that's where the expectation comes from me. Take the bigger price point here to win that as opposed to the division, which quite frankly, I don't think they're going to win this year. Now, as you pointed out multiple times, you look at the standings, they're not far back. There's still a long way to go, but I've seen enough. Like, it isn't like, Ben, hey, you know what? It's the first couple weeks of April. It's the first couple weeks of May. Tomorrow we'll be in June already, and we're still waiting for this team to wake up, which they played a lot of base. 25 and 32, they haven't woken up yet. So they're going to wake up in the next 60 games and be a dominant baseball team? I'm not so sure of that. But if they do throughout the summer, just hang around in that wild card race, nobody's going to look at the Astros, if they get into the playoffs, Ben, as an easy out. That's all.
I actually think I would look at the division price of plus 260, at least at this moment. Houston, 5.5 games back of Seattle. They are actually even deeper back, 6.5 games of what a potential wild card spot would be like. We don't really look at the wild card race this early on. But, Donnie, there's only 6 teams in the American League in total that are above 500 at this moment, and 3 of them hail from what we all expected to be the worst division entering this year, the American League Central. That's the Guardians pacing the division, the Kansas City Royals playing some really good baseball, and the Minnesota Twins, who knocked off KC yesterday. We'll look at that game in just a moment. National League Central now, 4-game set wrapping up this week in Milwaukee, and the Brewers get the last laugh. Greg Counsell's return to the state of Wisconsin, the former manager, of course, for Milwaukee, and the Brew Crew win 3 of the 4 games of this set with a 6-4 victory at home yesterday. Minus 120 money line. Favorite total goes over 8.5. Last 3 games of this series all saw at least 9 runs. Gary Sanchez, that Gary Sanchez, who used to play in the Bronx, a 2-run shot in the 8th for Milwaukee when the game was tied at 4 apiece. That the game-winning homer for the Brewers yesterday.
They got some quality pieces, but I still don't know what to make of the Milwaukee Brewers this season. 33 and 23, which is a good record. They look like the class of this division, and I understand that. But it's always those central divisions that we just throw in like, somebody's got to win it, but once they get to the playoffs, they'll be bounced because the other teams are better. So be it. But let's see what Milwaukee does. Get some bullpen help back. If you can continue to get some of those clutch hitting. I like Contreras in the DH role. They got good young players coming up, along with guys like Christian Yelich. Willie Adames has been very good this season. So the sky is the limit for them in that division, but it's always not really the division. What can you do in the playoffs? I just don't know if they have the front end talent to beat some of the other teams like the Phillies and the Dodgers if they match up.
Milwaukee, the minus money odds-on favorite. The Brewers have a 5-game lead in the National League Central as they're the only team above 500. The Cardinals an even 500, but Milwaukee 10 games above it. More around MLB next.
and now you have to qualify in these majors. You got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Using the parlays against one another, right? And being able to get a little bit of juice consig, I found to be a little interesting.
Believe me, all the rhombuses and parallelograms are constantly trying to search and find out those things every day. It's one of the battles that you know, as you expand the menu, you encounter new battles.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
A 4-game divisional duel coming to a close as well in Minneapolis yesterday between the Royals and the Twins in the American League Central. When we were breaking down the game, it was much closer on the money line than where it ended. Minnesota around a minus 166 home money line favorite because Brady Singer, who was the probable starter for Kansas City, was scratched before we got to some day baseball up in Minneapolis. But the Twins did rally. They win the finale of the series 7-6 over KC, total skying over 8.5. Minnesota takes 3 of the 4 games to win this series against the Royals, despite our guy, DRS, Vinny Pasquantino, Vinny P, the Pasquatch, hitting a 2-run home run in the first and 3 RBIs from Bobby Witt Jr., but it was Carlos Correa, bases clearing triple in the 6th, and Ryan Jeffers, who hit 2 long balls for Minnesota. The difference, the Twins win the series. They win the finale 7-6.
Yeah, good series overall here, but if you take a look at the Kansas City Royals, even if you scratched a better pitcher, you still got a competent performance out of Lynch. 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 3 runs, but only 2 of those earned. That should be good enough to hang around and get a victory, but then you have the bullpen coming in. Stratton, 2/3 of an inning, 4 earned runs given up, and it was basically a wrap from that point. But as you saw, Kansas City in the top of the 9th inning plated 2 runs to get closer in that 7-6 loss. But Kansas City, look, still hanging around, much like we just talked about the Houston Astros. Sometimes after 60 days or 2 full months in the regular season, you really know what you have. Kansas City's a pretty good squad here. Even getting a scratch pitcher, which you would have had the advantage in, you still got a competent start. You could have won that baseball game. You end up not doing that. So decent win for the Twins here, but not backing down on the Royals. They should be in it to win it this year, or at least in that area of, you know what? I think we can win this, if not win the division, and maybe sneak into the playoffs if we need the wild card. 35-23, solid record.
The Guardians off yesterday, but they have the best record in the Central, 37-19, 3-game advantage over KC. But the Royals already have 35 wins this year. We said it yesterday with Craig Mish. It took Kansas City until August 3rd to win their 35th game a season ago. A promising start there at Kauffman, to say the least. Aaron Judge, Yabo, once again, his 18th home run of the year, and the New York Yankees, an 8-3 victory on the road in Anaheim against the Angels. Yankees, minus 176, money line favorite, total of 8.5 does sky over. A good offensive performance out of New York, and Aaron Judge, he's playing some good baseball.
Yeah, by the way, good start by Rodon. 6 innings pitched, 3 earned runs, keep you in that each and every time, specifically with that Yankees offense. Sandoval came into that game struggling a bit, now sitting at a 5.34 ERA, despite going 6 innings and only 2 earned runs. But sometimes you just got to lean on your big boppers in the middle of that lineup. Aaron Judge only got 1 hit, but if you're going to take that 1 hit each and every night and turn it into 2 RBIs with a home run, that's what you'll take out of it. And also, how about Juan Soto? 1 for 3, gets 2 walks, but also cashes in with 3 RBI, hitting .312 on the season. First 3 guys in that lineup, and Volpe broke a long streak of getting base hits here, but he's still hitting .283.
True.
Volpe, Soto, Judge, Stanton. That's been a very good formidable 1 through 4 to open the season, and that includes Stanton only hitting .225. Hopefully that number rises higher. But if you say at the end of this season, Aaron Judge hits .275, which he's sitting at .273 right now, he's probably having an MVP-like season because that means a lot of long balls included in that .275 average.
The race for 40 is on today. The Yankees 39 wins, tied for the most in the bigs alongside the Philadelphia Phillies, also 39 wins. Aaron Judge, 18 home runs alongside Kyle Tucker and Gunnar Henderson, the most in all of MLB. And Juan Soto, that bases clearing triple in the 7th yesterday, 3 RBIs. He's got 49 this year, tied for the second most in Major League Baseball. You've got the 2 teammates in pinstripes that are the 2 front runners to win the American League MVP. Juan Soto, the favorite at this moment. You can't pat yourself on your back in this industry because there are as many losses as there are wins. But we called it yesterday. The Mets, a victory at home as an underdog against the Arizona Diamondbacks 3-2. And we wanted to see that apple rise in the outfield, maybe embodied with a young Kevin Walsh on its face. Francisco Lindor, a home run. JD Martinez, a home run. The Mets, back.
Yeah, how about that closed-door meeting equates to a victory here. Lindor does go 4 for 4 with that home run. He's actually been playing much, much better, still only hitting .225 on the season. But sometimes you need some breaks, which includes maybe one of the better pitchers in baseball, Zach Gallen, getting knocked out very early in that game, not because he got hit around, but because he got injured. And the Mets still needed a comeback victory against a low-lead Diamondbacks team right now, 25-31. But you'll take wins anywhere you can get them.
The Mets entered yesterday, losing 15 of their last 19 games, but now the win streak begins up at Citi Field. NFL news, the Bears on Hard Knocks, next. The numbers might look crazy, especially depending on where you think Jared Goff falls in the National Football League. I would consider him, maybe as crazy as this sounds, a top 10 quarterback.
And again, the theory behind paying your quarterbacks and your top-rated players, pay them earlier. The longer you wait, it only costs you money. If you have a top wide receiver, pay him here.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The Early Line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage Late
sort
Night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
That was Aaron Rodgers' thing. To your quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
It's a luxury pick. We don't have the luxury. We're trying to win right now. I'm in a window right now, and you're going to say, no, we're going to plan this for the future. With a guy who had 4 years, 4 seasons ended by injury. 4. Like, Michael Penix is a walking injury. Like, what are you doing taking him in the top 10?
The Bostonian versus the